if you want to be the best TVZ player in the world, you have come to the right place. No, just kidding. Clem is the best TVZ player in the world. You will never be able to beat him. But what we can do is we can look at Clem and take a look at his favorite build order to figure out why he is so darn good at TVZ. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. And a little bit of a guide. My first guide ever with Terran. So it will be interesting. I studied this replay intensely. I also asked Clem, like, hey Clem, like, what is your favorite build order in TVZ? He didn't want to share it with me, of course, because of the, you know, the secrets. You never give up your secrets as a pro player, but me and Clem have a very tight connection, so I could kind of feel that the build that I'm about to show is his favorite build order indeed. It is a 3cc, triple CC Banshee opener with a couple of cars. And we'll be going over the build order, but then also the first 3-4 minutes after the first medevacs hit the field to see exactly what makes him so damn good at this matchup. So when you're Clem, you always start with barracks expand, just your standard barracks, into gas, into command center. 16 barracks, 17 gas, and you get your command center after your orbital command. This allows you to send your SCV out after you build your barracks, just to make sure that there's no pool first shenanigans happening, or a 12 pool, or a proxy hatchery, or anything stupid that could potentially kill you. After you get your Reaper, you will get your second depot, and the SCV that builds the second depot gets rallied up to build the factory afterwards. First, of course, we also get a Marine after our Reaper. We make sure that this indeed is a hatchery that finishes at the 2-minute mark. That means it is a hatchery first, and then we go back home with our SCV. Reaper makes its way across the map. The depot SCV builds the factory, and once the Marine finishes over here, we will immediately start our reactor on this barracks. Reaper, well, if you're good, you can try to kill a couple of links. If you're not good, you can just idle it and patrol it here in front of your opponent's base and make sure that you don't lose it, and make sure that no links can pass by. That is more important than trying to kill half a link. If you have the decision between patrolling over here and making sure nothing runs by and losing it to a queen and 3 links after killing a single link, I'd much rather have you patrol it over here. Alright? Then at around 25 supply we get our third command center. Before our second gas, do note, before our second gas, before our orbital, and once we have 16 workers on minerals in the main, we also start rallying SCVs towards our natural. At that point, our command center there will finish up, and we can turn that command center immediately into an orbital command, like the good boy that we are. We swap the factory and the barracks, and we get our starport. Barracks flies close to the starport, and then you see there is a small cut here, or a small cut, a relatively large cut in helium production. That's also because we're getting our second gas before we start our helions. We get our second gas at the natural, makes it easy to rally with our SCVs into the natural and then just pull workers from the natural. Rather than having to oversaturate your main and then having 3 workers sent into that gas, we just rally everything to the natural, makes things a little bit easier. It's slightly worse economically, technically, but you don't need to micro your SCVs while you're also microing your Reaper, or in your case, most likely patrolling the Reaper. Once money allows it, we will start our helium production, and we still make sure that no links are capable of running by. That is our number 1 priority here with the Reaper. We just want to make sure, hey, are links running by or not, because we don't want any links on the map. If you're very good, you can try to snipe a tumor, but most people will not be able to do that. Once our starport is about halfway done, by the way, we start our tech lab on the barracks. And once the starport finishes, the barracks and the starport will be able to swap over, and you will be able to construct your first Banshee. We have basically continuous Hellion production at this point. You can do 2 things. You can either always rally your Hellions to the front, or you can always have 2 Hellions waiting here, and then once the next 2 arrive, you send the other 2 forward. We'll see that Clem most of the time leaves at least 1 Hellion over here to make sure that if there is a Ling run by, he will be able to deal with it. Command center finishes, we'll get an orbital. Do note that we haven't built a 3rd depot yet. We're still only on 2 depots at this point. And we start our cloak after we start our first Banshee, once money allows it. Once again, a slight cut in the cars here. So yeah, you're just going to have some delayed car production. That's okay. It's not the biggest of deals. Once again, the build always has priority over micro. First, get the build down, then start microing within the build. It's the most important thing. We got our first depot on the low ground as we start creating a wall for potential run-bys. And we get a tech lab on our barracks once again, gas allows it after we get cloak. Then at 4:20, we build our first barracks. We don't build it over here, but we build it either above the barracks, close by the factory. And then at 4:24, after our factory lifts, we build the second barracks. And this is important because we build it where the old reactor was. Our factory goes and builds another reactor. And this barracks will then later swap over with that factory. So immediately you'll have 2 barracks pumping out Marines from 2 reactors without having to construct those reactors first. That is very important. And tech lab management and reactor management or add-on management is one of the most important things with Terran. It makes the build flow so much nicer if you know what you are doing. So really pay attention to how this is done. Make sure that your buildings are close by. Start your second Banshee. You can do a couple of things with those Banshees. You can, most of the time, you just leave them in a random location where they can't be spotted easily and then fly in later with both of them. You can also have them join up with the cars immediately and try to deny a little bit more creep. After barracks 2 and 3, we get gas 3 and 4. Continue depot production at the front. And after gas 3 and 4, once money allows it, we will be getting eBay 1 and 2. Now do note that we're almost continuously building SCVs here. SCVs have priority. As you can see, SCV count is rather high already. We want to continue that in order to stay on top of our opponent when it comes to the economy. Once the factory finishes, you have 2 choices. If your opponent is playing some heavy roach, or if you believe he's going to be playing some roaches, be sure to get a tech lab here and start pumping out tanks. If you think your opponent is going to be playing Ling Bane or Ling Bane Mura or Hydra Bane, Ling Bane, anything but roach, get as many mines as you can, and thus we straight away get a reactor. Here, Clem believes that Raynor will be playing Ling Bane and will immediately get a reactor here. Once our second Banshee pops out, our starport flies over to get a reactor on itself as well. Now don't forget, if you want tanks, you can fly this factory over to this tech lab. So you don't actually have to build that tech lab here. You can just fly over and start building tanks here, if that is necessary, of course. Well, you can use your Hellions and Banshees together, or you can use your Hellions on one side and fly in with your Banshees from another. Pre-cloak them, so when you're not in vision of your opponent, you cloak them already, like over here. You can fly in and start sniping some drones without the queens knowing that you're there, because of course units that are cloaked do not show up on the minimap unless they're being detected. At about 5:30, we're gonna get barracks 4 and 5. So these are really the main timings, I think, that we want to be looking at are the initial barracks timing, so barracks 2 and 3, that's once the first 6 cars finish up at like 4:20, 4:25, and then barracks 4 and 5 at like 5:30. These are very important timings, and please keep those, keep them close, okay? You don't want to be getting barracks 2 and 3 at the 6-minute mark. That actually is really important. We're also only getting 6 cars. Once our E-base finish, we get 1-1 started. Stim, well, I forgot to mention it, but started at around 5 minutes. And once our reactor finishes on this starport, we shall be pushing out medevacs immediately. And that's when the important things start happening. So we're just going to kind of move forward here. We're continuously producing Marines out of those barracks. We're making sure we're not getting supply block. You see, what a noob. God, he's so bad. Look at that. Supply block. How long was this? Good lord. That's pathetic. I'd never do that. Look at that. Let's count. 85, 85 at 5:51. It's going to be supply block for 11 seconds. Don't do that, guys. Don't copy Clem like that. Unbelievable. God. Is he even doing anything? Average APM of only 360. That's so low. I have like 320, but I never get supply block. 5 barracks. Get reactors on everything, of course. We don't want to be getting any marauders yet. That will be later on in the game. We get an armory. Well, this is a little bit early. Usually you want to get it once they're a little bit past halfway done. Armory takes 46 seconds, but if you want to play it safe and not forget your armory, get it, you know, whenever you feel like you're not forgetting it. and when the money kind of allows it after the medevacs. Start your mine production, and the trick here is, okay, is that your first 2 medevacs will contain exclusively Marines, and your second or your third medevac will contain 1 to 2 mines, depending how many you want to build and how many you want to load up. So here we immediately see these medevacs fly out, getting boosted forward. Clem is moving out already with the Marines. You can either wait for the medevacs or you can move out already preemptively with the Marines. Take a look what's happening over here, okay? You might be wondering, well, why are none of these things doing anything? Well, first of all, the cars are getting repaired, the bench are getting repaired, but it's also not unwise to leave some units back at home to make sure that you're not being run by it, because the run by is the bane of the Terran's existence. Cars at home do very well with Ling run bys. Benches at home are not as great against big Ling run bys, but still manage to clean it up eventually, so it's at least something. You'll need to put away your workers in that case. If you have your cars and benches there, you'll never have to worry. Another reason why you can get the armory this fast is because of what Clem is about to do. He's going to turn these into hellbats and create a little bit of a marine hellbat push. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but if you feel like you can kill your opponent or deal a lot of damage, then sure, you can do it. Also make sure to start combat shield the moment your stim finishes. And once money allows it, after your barracks are all done and your medevac 3 and 4, or medevac 3 has started, get your second factory. And if you went for a reactor on that first factory, your second factory can be built on this tech lab immediately. So you can start researching drilling claws ASAP. Continuous worker production, and note that no gases are taken yet here on this third base, as it's not quite necessary when you're having pure mine production. When you're building tanks, perhaps it is necessary to get an extra gas, but in this case, not quite. Now is when it starts getting really interesting, as 1-1 is about to finish up and combat is about halfway done, and the third medevac pops out. Pick up 2 mines. You can either pick up 2 mines and start dropping those mines at a base, or you can pick up 6 Marines and a mine and start denying creep on the other side. We'll have a look at that. Basically what you want to do when you play TVZ mid-game is that you have 2 groups on the map, and both of those are busy denying creep or trying to attack a base. 5th gas at 7:30ish. Could get it a little bit earlier. As you can see, he's struggling to get gas right now for the +2 armor upgrade. He's also struggling to get gas for the drilling claws. Could of course also delay another medevac. Medevacs are very gas intense. And soon he should be getting a 4th base as well. He's even getting a 6th gas at this point. So you see the double mine drop. Now, the double mine drop is not going to really work out most likely, as well, I say that. I was gonna say Raynor is really quick, but Raynor didn't really expect it and actually ends up losing 8 workers. See a lot of reinforcements here to this position. You can always just reinforce one of the 2 positions that you have on the map, the one where you believe you're going to be capable of doing the most damage. Always try to burrow mines, try to scan for creep, and keep moving forward. That's exactly what Clem is doing here now. Now, I'm not expecting you to have this type of micro, but you can still always stand on the edge of creep with 1 or 2 mines burrowed, and you should be having a good time. Get your 4th base at around the 8-minute mark. Could be done a little bit earlier, perhaps, but having it slightly later also isn't the end of the world. As you can see that Clem is constantly looking for damage. Once again, dropping this mine, we'll be able to get 3 workers and picks up this mine again. I'm not expecting you guys to do this at all. This, however, I am expecting you to do, moving with a 2nd army on the map. And this is where I think Clem differs from the other Terrans. I think this is where he is by far the best. The way that he moves these 2 armies around and how he plays around the mines that he has burrowed on the map. Have a nice spread, put them on the edge of creep. Just burrow mines at key locations. So this would be a good location, this could be a good location. This is a fantastic location, of course. And you can even move up here as well and burrow another one here while you scan this area. And just constantly try to push back and forth. This doesn't mean that both armies at all times need to be on creep. You notice that Clem almost always only has a single army on creep. When you're on creep, you're vulnerable. When you're off creep, you have some time to respond and your mines can do the work. Never move forward with 2 armies at the same time. That is risky and no one can control that. Not even Clem. Well, okay, Clem probably can control that, but it tends to not be too wise. So you see, he's being pushed off creep here, and immediately he starts moving forward on creep in this location. And that's important. that is the main thing that Clem does so extremely well. Is the constant changing of armies. Moving on creep and off creep. Here it goes, off creep again, and now he reinforces. People often think that this is multitasking, and it is. This is what is considered multitasking, but he's also just intensely focusing, and he's allowing himself to focus on one thing at the same time. And the beautiful thing that he is doing is that he's forcing his opponent to look at two things, because his opponent doesn't know if this army is going to attack or if this army is going to attack, or maybe even a third army that's going to be going over here. And I think that is the real power of Clem, is that he's so good at picking what army to look at when. And here he goes for another small rotation, so he doesn't... This army that he has over here can attack this area and can attack this area, and he's constantly ping-ponging between those two. The same with this army. He started over here, denied some creep there, and his opponent says, well, maybe I want links and banes over here. Then he pops in here. Maybe takes a look if there's a base over here. And he just keeps going again and again. Now, usually a thing that I noticed, that our good friend Clem does as well, is whenever his +2 attack is about to finish, he will get a rather large army somewhere on the map, and he won't necessarily do a very dedicated attack, but he'll try to do some bigger damage. He'll really try to... He'll still have smaller armies on the map as well, but usually he'll try to really push forward with maybe a 3 or 4 medevac army with a lot of reinforcements as well, to try and either clear a lot of creep or even start pushing towards a base. This move, by the way, was beautiful. Look, this entire... The way this was set up is so crazy to me. Look at this. So he loads up these 2 medevacs. Just look at how well prepared this was. The anticipation. So he clears some creep here. So this is the first move. Then he picks this up, moves to the left. He pokes in here. Burrows a mine. Says, okay, I'm attacking this. And moves back here. While he's moving back here, he will load up these 2 medevacs and rally them into the 5th base. He pulls away to the left side. And he's basically telling this army, hey buddy, come over here. I need you over here. You come over here. And he basically pulls this army further and further away from the zone that they are supposed to defend. Look at this beauty, okay? So he goes over here and he says, hey guys, this is still your zone, you know? You still need to defend this with this army. So Raynor sees this and he's like, oh, okay, that's my zone. I'm gonna go there. A worse Zerg player here would have said, I'm gonna chase with this to those Marines. Because he first pokes in here, which is still part of the zone of this army, and then he starts walking here. And it's very tempting to keep chasing with this army. Raynor is good enough and says, no, it's now entering this zone. I actually need to start using this army. And, well, sadly, also this army. And that was the mistake that Raynor made here. Allowing these 2 drops to drop. Mines get the burrow, drones go down, mining gets denied, and all of a sudden Clem has a really good position. And this is a move that really kind of breaks open the game. It allows Clem to set up his next push without having to worry about Lingbane counterattacks necessarily, because Raynor just used everything to defend. And now, here comes a relatively big push. I'm surprised this army doesn't join up. He might have just forgotten it, because I'm not quite sure what the use of leaving it at home. He gets to deny a lot of creeper in the middle, as Raynor is scrambling a defense. And I think this... We could go on in this game and keep watching it forever, because there's like 4 or 5 more moves like this. But I think the first 10 minutes here are really the essence of the way that Clem plays TVZ. Constantly pulling his opponent out of position, and with a build order that just allows for a lot of safety against early roaches with quick banshees, map control with the cars, and setting yourself up on multiple locations at the same time. If you're struggling with multitasking, be always sure to have enough mines and burrow them in front of your army. So imagine your army's over here, have 2 mines over here, your army over here. In that case, you don't need to respond that fast, and even if you don't respond, mines will still do some work. Just make sure that you deny the creep, push forward, and hopefully you will be able to get a better TVZ than you currently have. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, that's good. If you say, Kevin, stick to your trade, We know you made Grandmaster with Terran, but don't even start lecturing us on this race, because you don't know nothing. Then I say, go suck it. I enjoy this. Bye bye. Thanks for watching.